Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to take a minute for YouTube to catch up to us. Okay, so welcome to the Awakened Beings panel, talking about listening to the inner self. I'm here with Kira and Manoj, Josie, and Daniel and Nickie-Jean. We're coming from all over the world to talk about our experiences of learning how to listen to the inner self, and hopefully you can get some nuggets that can help you to listen to your inner self a little bit more keenly. I know that this was a subject that I struggled with for a long time, and mostly because I think I lived with a lot of trauma and a lot of miscued ways of thinking. And so, I also didn't understand that trusting your inner selves meant that, sometimes you followed a path that brought you through a series of learning. And then I would get, to the other side of that and all of the ins and outs of what that learning was and looked like, and been like, oh, thought that I didn't take the right path. Right. But then realize in the end, no, that was the right path. It's always been the right path. And that, listening sometimes brought you to situations that may not always be comfortable, but always gave you what you needed in the long run. So who wants to start? Who wants to go?
I'll start, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So for me, and I was just discussing this with a friend as well, because it's something that they're also struggling with. It was deciphering the difference between my intuition and paranoia. So, because for most of my life, they pretty much sound the same. They actually like show up the same way. So I've had to learn how to trust what my intuition is and remove the paranoia. So the paranoia may make me feel like I'm being cautious when that's actually just the fear from my experiences. So if I encounter something that I've experienced before, I automatically want to be cautious about it, rather trusting my gut on it. It might just be something that looks the same, but is actually very different. So being able to separate the two has always been a challenge for me, because they both are something that you can actually feel in your gut. So I know that my intuition is something that I have to trust, that speaks to me positively, that says, yes, this is the right thing to do, even if you feel afraid to do it, even if it might look like something very similar to your past. Identifying trauma in certain situations will stop you or stop me from actually listening and trusting my gut, knowing that that's what I should be listening to. So learning the difference between intuition and paranoia for me is how I'm learning, because it's a constant learning process, and trusting and listening to my inner self.
I could definitely identify with that, Kira. I wouldn't really say paranoia too much. It's just a negative self-talk though. And I think it is from past similar, past trauma and stuff, and mechanism, because obviously no one wants to go through the same hurt and pain again. And so it is a way of protecting yourself, and it's normal, it's human. But now I'm learning that I'm listening to that inner voice and hearing the negative talk, and I'm able to change it around and make it work for me and talk myself out of it until that becomes a pattern that no longer is a fear that's relevant in my life anymore. Because a lot of it is like, yeah, I had a rough childhood and a lot of things happened, and it's like, wow, but that was like 30 years ago. Like, am I really gonna carry that still? And we do that. Everything's like they say to you 7 years old, like that builds your whole belief system and everything, and how you function now. And that when I think of it like that, like, wow, that was so, it's not like I should be over it. I did the work to be over it. But I want to also know that that is not my life anymore. That's not where I am. That's not who I am, and not let it define me. So I try to change that negative talk to positive. And by listening to it, you're able to do that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, actually, things started with asking questions. A lot of questions I have been asking, a lot of questions to myself. As I told you before going live, we were discussing, I told you about my health condition that I'm severe hemophilic. So that is for all the audiences now listening. So, so in my childhood, I had some really difficult times due to my health struggling. And since it's a rare genetic condition, even during that time when I was growing up, the doctors wouldn't know much about the disease and the management, and parents are not that much learned, so they themselves did not know much about it. And as a child, when I was growing up, I would always ask, why am I suffering, right? And why am I going through all these things? What wrong have I done, right? So these were some important questions that I had always in my mind, but I couldn't ask people. Uh, Often I would ask my mother, but she wouldn't have that answer that would satisfy my uh, anticipation that okay, this is the right answer that has to be there, right? So I kept on asking the questions, but slowly again, as things went around me, these questions have actually helped me grow. At times, I missed the opportunities that I should have taken, but I was skeptical about my health because anything would happen anytime. So I cannot plan beforehand those things. Now medications and all those things are available, and I'm now grown up and have a knowledge about it, so I can manage myself better, and I teach people how to manage themselves better. And even the most important thing that I always tell people is start asking questions to yourself and people around you. Even if they feel bothered or they feel disturbed, then if they are disturbed too much from your question, then okay, stop asking questions from them. But again, when you ask questions, you are able to find answers that would help you heal. Because when you are going through a trauma in your life, you are seeking answers for those things, and if you're not asking question, you are keeping it to yourself, then you cannot heal. So for me, the process going inside also began from asking questions. When I found no one else around me could answer me my question and satisfy me, then it has to be within me, right? Then we came to know about meditation and all those stuff, right? So the power of meditation and all. And we have, in Hindus, we have mantras, Gayatri mantra, and these things I do. Our rituals we have every morning after taking bath, we do our pujas. That ritual is there, so that helps me. And when you're focused on any god or any deity or whatever your belief is, right? So you ask that question with them. Many times what has happened is that I'm suffering. I actually talk to the idol, to the god, and say that I'll take your name and I'll fight. I'll fight with what you have given me the suffering. I'll take your name and I'll fight. So these type of things have helped me going within. So through meditation and all those things, I've been able to find the answers to the questions that I had. So for my my life, the journey began with asking questions and trying to find it out myself. If nobody is answering, I'll find it myself. So that was the process for me.
Let's hear from you, Daniel.
Oh boy. Okay. So I understand what you're talking about with the paranoia, but again, what all that paranoia is fear, and that the fear is very hard for us to let go of. But we learned how to have fear. We didn't come into this world with fear. You wake up in a baby body one day and go, wow, your mom and dad's going, I'm your mom and dad. And you're going, I don't know who the hell you are, but okay. And then they raise you. But what happens? You just came from a perfect place where there was no fear, where there was no pain, anger, sorrow, grief, and guilt, anguish, any of that stuff, all that stuff. We learn all that stuff. And if that was not the truth, then a good analogy for that is to take two children of the age of 2 years old of every race, creed, and color, and you stick them in one large room, and then you take two of them and you turn them around and say, I want you to point to me. Who do you hate in this room? They're going to look at you like you're crazy, because why? They haven't learned how to hate yet. We teach them everything. We teach them fear. We teach them guilt. We teach them everything. I mean, you could be standing there and about to put your finger on an oven, and it burns you, and you go, oh, and then you go back and you go to try to do it again. And what your mom do? She yells at you and says, no. And what does that do? Teaches you fear. And we start teaching fear everything throughout our lives. So what's the answer to that? Teach yourself differently. You don't have to pay attention to what they are telling us to do in this world. You don't have to listen to everything that they tell us to do in this world, because that's what the world wants us to do. The world wants us to think a certain way. These are the people who want to tell you how to live your life the way they want you to live it, and give them 10% at the same time. How did they know about 10%? Because the people who wrote all those books and scrolls and all were kings and queens. That's how they know that, because they were the ones who are in power and control of us. The unfortunate part is that we relinquished that power and control over to them a long time ago. It's time to take the power back. It's time to let them know that we don't need to rely on them for everything. We can take care of ourselves if we wanted to. But what we could also do is take care of each other in a more supportive way, where we're not trying to break each other down all the time, because that's what the world, again, wants us to do. They want to separate us. They want to segregate ourselves from ourselves. We need to stop doing that. We need to start taking care of each other. But it's about learning, and it's about listening. But the most important part is it's about following through. We get messages all the time. And what we are talking about here is getting in touch with your intuition. But what is your intuition? It's not your brain, it's your soul. And your soul knows you better than anything. Why? Because your soul has been here so many times. We keep coming back over and over and over again. We're here to learn lessons and fulfill a purpose. But the hardest problem is, the reason why we keep coming back is because we don't fulfill our purpose. And we don't learn our lessons correctly. And that's why sometimes we have to come back and we have to learn lessons over and over and over again, because we're just not getting it correct. It's not about right or wrong. It's about trying to learn a lesson and move forward. And how do you learn a lesson? Well, if you walk through a doorway, there's a nail in the floor and you trip over the nail. How do you learn that lesson? You go and get a hammer and you bang that nail in so you can walk through that door freely. But not everyone does that. We trip over that nail 4 or 5 times, or some people just continue to trip over that nail all the time. I know those people. I used to work in prison. They haven't figured out that they're not good criminals, because they just don't learn lessons very well. It's about learning the lessons that's important here. But you come here to learn lessons because the soul, unknowingly to you, picked the body that you're in now. It chose these lessons to learn because the lessons previously were not hard enough. Because why do I say not hard enough? Those hard lessons that you're trying to learn, that purpose that you're trying to fulfill, is all about you going home and staying home. And what I refer to as home is what we would refer to as crossing over into the light, into heaven. And the point of everything to be here is to learn those lessons so you don't have to come back again. I mean, everyone here in this room, you have something in common with the other 7.5 billion people in this world. They've all been to heaven and they all had to come back, just like you did, because you didn't learn your lessons correctly. Do I get cancer because I'm being punished? No, you get cancer because the soul is here to learn about cancer. But the only way they can learn about that cancer is by being in this physical body. You choose the body you're coming into to learn these lessons. And hopefully this will get you, basically how I call it, you're punching your dance card so you don't have to come back again. But you're not going to really figure that out until you leave here and they let you know whether or not you have to come back again. Or unless you come and talk to me and I ask an angel, and then I'll find out for you. But like you, Shakir, you've been here 28 times. 28 times. But that's not real bad. I mean, when I do readings for people, the average time is between 26 and 29 times. But I have done readings for people. I did one for a woman. She had been here 43 times. She's messing it up. She's not getting it correct. And she still didn't get it correct. I even had to tell her at the end. She asked me, do I have time to fulfill my purpose? I said, no, you do not. You have run out of time. What does that sound like to you? I said that in a nice way because I knew she was getting ready to die. And she did 6 months later. Because when it's your time to go, it just is. But we're here to fulfill a purpose. We are here to learn lessons, and everything we do in our lives is a lesson. If I pick up this towel and I put it down, it's a lesson. If I pick it up and drop it, it's not a bad lesson. It's not a good lesson or a bad lesson. It's just a lesson. How do I learn that lesson? Well, maybe next time I'll hold it a little bit tighter so I won't drop it. And that's what our lives are about. But we focus too much on the bad. If you fall down and you spill your coffee, that's not the end of your day. That's not the end of your world. Go pick up the coffee, clean up your mess, and go get another freaking coffee. It's that simple. But we spend too much time on the pain, the anger, the sorrow, the grief. And the reason why we do that is because the world taught us to do that. And why? Because they want to occupy our time so that we are in misdirection. We have misinformation going on the whole entire time. And why do they do that? Because they don't want us to see what's actually going on in this world. And that's why they all have control over us, and we are the ones who are walking around. I mean, I know, unfortunately, in this world, we have different colors, different races, and they've all been slaves to other people. But unfortunately, we are slaves to the world. And until we break free of that, we're never going to get out of this mess of this pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, and anguish. So we have to learn to listen. We have to learn, but not only just listen to our intuition, but follow through with it. When it gives you a message, when you get that gut feeling inside you, it tells you, like, here's an analogy for you. You're driving in a car and you see a car in front of you and you say to yourself, I want to pass that car. But then you get a gut feeling that says, don't pass the car. Well, you know what? Don't pass the freaking car, because that's your soul. That's your soul trying to tell you not to do these things. But here's how you know when people don't listen. Because you're in the hospital later talking to your friend who got into a car accident, and they say 3 words to you. They say, Shakira, I saw that car in front of me, Shakira, but you know what? I just knew. That's it. When they say I just knew, that was their soul talking to them. And they didn't listen. And most of the time they don't listen because the world wants you to talk yourself out of it. Because why? Because they don't want you to have any trust or have any faith within yourself to do anything in this world. They want you to think that you need to rely on them for everything. And you don't need to. You can rely on yourself. And eventually we need to get to a point where we're just relying on ourselves enough that we know what the answers are. We don't have to just read a book for it. We don't have to watch a TV show or get it, most of the stuff we get off of TV and movies is bullcrap anyway. So, so as long as we start listening to what's inside of us, the real true power, because the real true power, the real true value in this world is not money. Money is ridiculous. We base our economy on paper and rocks. You've heard of it, money and gold, No, without us, the true value in this world, that money is worth nothing. That gold is worth nothing until it is in our hands. So we need to get back to the true power in this world, the true light in this world, which is within us. And then eventually, hopefully, the world will come together knowing that we don't need these necessities out of life. What we need is each other. And that's what we need to start listening to. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's a really powerful message at the end there. There were a few points that I'm taking notes on, but I want to hear from Nikki before.
I love listening to everyone's, first of all, I love listening to everyone's stuff because we're all I'm going to speak from what feels true for me, and it's not true for everybody. And that's so freaking okay, because we're all in this together, but we all have our own perceptions and from all of our experiences that we've been through. And there's no wrongness in that. It's all beautiful. So for me, about intuition, it is very much it's that knowingness within you, but it is coming into a space of relearning to listen to that, because when we were small, we had to attach to our family or whatever system that we're into. We had to attach. And this, I learned that through Gabor Mate's Compassionate Inquiry course. Like, that was a huge one for me, is that, like, from like my understanding is I chose that family system, and I've as a soul, and I came into this space, and I've attached to that, to release that from myself as well. And it's just to conform and fit in out of survival. And then as we're getting older and old, you know, we're growing up and things aren't feeling right. And we're coming into this space where people are getting super curious because things aren't logically making sense anymore. It's like, because we've been taught to think from here and not from the body and the heart and that navigation system. And for me, going into with how, you know, like, I support people through trauma, which is stuck energy. And for me, like, for how I see the world is like childhood wounding is a lot of catalyst for like soul just going into other spaces like past lives and ancestral and things that have come through epigenetically. And we came here as these very brave but amazing souls. There's so much more that we're releasing in that space to move through this ascension process as well. And the intuition space is, I really deeply learned that by being in the opposite of that space to really learn, like, and it was a massive, messy moments in my life. I had, so a real life example was, I was married. I was with like this beautiful person. We had an amazing relationship, and we were together nearly 10 years, and we were traveling overseas. We were living in another country at the time, and it was like, there were all these things coming up, like the plane tickets were really hard to like book. They were getting really expensive. The way to get to the place that we were going, we had to like jump through a few hoops. There were so many messages. Like, one of my colleagues is like, didn't you know that place is the highest murder rate per capita? Like, just randomly. And he actually randomly said something to me like, if I die, I'd want you to be with someone because I'd want you to be happy. And we're 27 at the time. I'm like, what are you doing about? We're going to have grandchildren together and we're talking about all these travels. And it was like a month later, and he was actually murdered while we're on holiday. And it was I thought there was going to be a plane crash or something like that. And it was just very much, I really, really, that experience. And the more that I come into that space, the more I am in, because I was nearly gone too. And the more I am, my understanding of that now, I'm just so much in love and appreciation, because I see life and death in a completely different way. And I see the way I see him as a soul is completely different. And I'm so in unconditional love and appreciation for that experiencing that vulnerable experience of the way he transitioned over. But at the time, it was also teaching me about intuition and listening to myself, because so many times in my life I had to disconnect in order to survive and attach to systems. And I am like the whole thing. There is no malice or I just love the whole process of that for me. And when I really started, like a few years ago, I was teaching people about listening to the intuition, and just really, it's like a muscle. That it's not like you're going into the gym and you're lifting 100 kilos straight away. It is that muscle. And I'm like, pick a place. I've done this before, like pick a destination. You know that you're going there, and it's like you go left or right or straight and left, and listen to your body and what it's saying. And then I've been around, there was one trip I was going round and round in circles, and I didn't know why. It was when I ended up in my destination, it was there was this homeless guy I kept bumping into. I always had a banana in my car, and I'd always had these amazing chats with him, and he was there when I got to my destination. So it is the experience and the journey along the way. And I will intuitively dress now. I will intuitively, sometimes I go to the beach, I'll just get a hit and I'm like, okay, I'm off here. And that's how I live my life now. It's very heart-led, and it's a body sensation as well. Like you feel it, and for different people, it is different things. I had a client yesterday who's not really into like the woo, and we went into Atlanta at times to release her from somewhere, but we like going into this space of listening, got her to listen to her body, of what is her intuitive, her sacred yes, her sacred no. And she was like, whoa, I get it now. I really feel that. And that can like shift and change as well. And for me, it depends on which other like beautiful beings are hanging out as well. Like goosebumps will be a little confirmation for me. I'll be like, whoo, or a rush of energy, or whatever that is. And we are like, whatever it is for you. And I love how we all have these different facets of this to add to this conversation that are going to ignite for people that are listening and hearing that it's all right. And also just no matter what comes to the table, it's just like, it just feels beautiful and phenomenal. And yeah, that's, I'm going to have another sip of coffee because it's like something past 5 in the morning.
Yeah. So, you know, I love what I'm hearing, because each one of you are bringing a personal experience or something that has happened to you that, you know, forced you to have to look inwards to really find the voice and find that. And the interesting thing that I've come to learn is that intuitive voice is not always a screamer. Actually, most of the time, it's the most light spoken voice that, you know, I've been at the grocery store before and there's that little voice, hey, you should pick this up. And I'm like, why would I ever need that? I'm not buying that. And then an hour later I get home, I'm like, well, there it is. Should have bought it, you know? So, and it's just that little tiny voice. And I think that, you know, I love what you were saying, Kira and Josie, about, you know, programming, and especially Nikki, you talked about it too, is, you know, we're brought up in these situations to stop listening to that voice, stop listening to that guidance, and we do it to survive. You know, it's, you have to fit into the family unit if you want to, you know, get the love that you need and the connection that you need, and make sure that, you know, the people around you are happy so that you fit into the mold of what that looks like, so that you're getting the love that you need. And in order to do that, in a lot of cases, we need to shut down that voice. We need to shut down that intuition that tells us, you know, take that right turn, or, you know, make that choice. And it can be really difficult. And I love what you were saying too, Daniel, about
Me?
yeah, the world of lies. I, you know, we live in a world that tells you you need to depend on it to survive.
Correct.
And so many people buy into that lie that they disconnect from the very essence of what their true hearts or their intuition is telling them. And, you know, it takes them down a path of some really hard learning. And going back to also what you were talking about is, you know, when we don't learn the lessons properly, or when we're not carrying out the mission. And I like to direct it towards not carrying out the mission more than not learning the lesson, because when we are carrying out our mission, we feel full of energy and we feel like we're driven towards these, you know, circumstances that bring us more alive and bring us more teachings and energy and all of that. And when we can look at it like, what is the mission instead of what is the lesson? Because there's all kinds of lessons that come when we're carrying out the mission. And when we don't get what we're here to do, then we're coming back, because our energy, each one of us, is unique. We all have something special we're bringing to the collective. We all have a different mission. And so when we have, you know, look at the mission and all the things that we need to learn in the mission, and that we have people, or I can't say people, but we have a support system we can't see, kind of giving us these little inspirations like, hey, yeah, if you do that, it's going to help you here. And if you do this, it's going to help you there. And when we can harness that and use it, then we're carrying out our mission. We're working with the unseen, because the unseen support system that we have knows what our mission is, even though we may not know what it is. I listen to a lot of Dolores Cannon, and she talks a lot about, a lot of times, we're just living our lives and we're just doing our thing, but our spirit is doing something when we're sleeping, or even when we're at work and we're doing these
Correct.
things. Just our presence there is creating these waves around us that everybody needs, right?
Yes, we don't stop. We just continue to go, even though we are sleeping. Our soul is continuing to go. Absolutely. Yeah, my wife listens to a lot of Dolores Cannon.
Yeah,
Can I add something to what Nikki said?
absolutely.
Whoop whoop, you go, girl. Hey, but one other thing, Nikki, let go of that whole kilo thing. This is 2023. Man. It's pounds, not kilo. Okay, let it go. Just saying.
I'm not sure that I caught on to that one, Daniel.
Metric system. Come on. Let's get into pounds. Everybody just do pounds. It's okay.
As long as we don't talk about Samsung and Apple.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So how does everybody feel about trust? What was your journey with trusting your intuition? Because I think everybody here has to had a journey with being able to trust the voice.
Yeah, exactly. Even as Daniel said, and Nikki also said about getting that message, right? And listening to that message. Actually, in my life also, at times I would get a vibe because I could feel that sense that this person is not right. I have worked with many people and helped them out in their business part and all. So at times I would get the vibe that this person is not right and I shouldn't be doing business or work with this person. But then I'll say, then there is another voice within that will say, okay, let's work with the person. Maybe working with me, that person changes, their attitude changes or their way changes. But in the end, what the intuition said on the first day, that see, I told you so. The person is not someone who could be changed, because there are people who have learned their way and they have actually, they do not want to change their pattern, right? And so that way I learned the hard way that man, you have to learn to trust it. So now what I have done after so many lessons, as Daniel told me, you will keep getting those lessons, right? Yes, we keep getting those lessons, that once you say, okay, I got my lesson and I understand this thing. So now I have created a boundary for these people, that when my intuition says that this person is not right, I say namaste. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you. You go your way, I'll go my way. Because my life has a purpose. I cannot waste it behind someone who is not ready to actually change the behavior, which is not right. Right. So there are many people who actually need your help. So when you are trying to focus on that one person to help that person, at times there are people who are really struggling, but they cannot get out of their negativity. What personally I believe is that I need to empower them, not to do the hand holding stuff. I do not believe in hand holding stuff. There are people and coaches, no personal offense against them. They say we will do hand holding. I'm personally, from my belief is that hand holding means you are making the person dependent on you. And if you are really someone who is looking to help the other person, one should help them to help self, right? Self-help. It should be something that the person has become empowered enough that they can help themselves, and that person can help someone else also. But if you want that person to come back to you again and again to seek help, that means you're not empowering, you're not helping, you're not healing that person. You're like an addiction to that person who needs you to feel good. So it shouldn't be that. The person should feel good in himself, right? Within himself. And him or herself, they should feel that love and that happiness within self, right? When I'm spending my best time, that is with me, because I can go crazy and I can be non-judgmental to myself, right? I can all of a sudden I can do ha ha ha. Yes, I want to do this, right? I do that actually, and at times my younger siblings say, "Pagal ho gaye ho," that means you have gone mad. So I say, "Yes, I'm mad."
What?
So it's okay. I agree with them. That's yes, I've gone mad, but I enjoyed doing it, right? So I'm not harming anyone, and that's actually channelizing the energy. Sometimes the energy is moving through you, and you need to channelize it. So I see now different forms of, let's say, writing I have used as the healing tool. And personally, I have been able to understand and befriend words. Words are my best friend. So actually, when I was young, I wouldn't be able to attend the schools. My attendance was less. I would do my self-reading. So there I need to understand the meaning also of different and difficult words, which again, you would need a tutor or a teacher. So I would decipher it by myself, right? I spent time deciphering the words, how they are written, how they are said. So now the words are saying to me, even when I'm listening to a person, I do not need to see a person. Even if you're describing a person, I would be able to tell the aura of a person or the vibe of that person. Even if you're saying good thing about a person, I could still see what that person is. That real-time example is I was associated with an organization, and the founder of that organization, we had not met him before, but there was someone else who was talking so much high about that person. But then I had seen a photograph of that person, but when I heard that lady talk about him, I said, please don't say too much good about the person. Let me hear the person, what you want to say. And what picture I got in the end, we those people also started realized that what I was saying, the person pretends. So they were able to understand now that the person was pretending to be that good in the end. So my intuition was right, and I could interpret those things. The words were filtered, the vibrations were filtered, and that came to me, and my intuition could actually accept it. So I understood that this is my power. And today I'm able to, I like to listen to people first, because I need to understand their vibrations, right? What they are. At times, the type of word and the focus on how you speak a particular word, that tells about you, what's going on inside the mind, subconscious mind. So these are some of the important tools that help you catch that the vibration, true vibration of a person. Yeah. So I'm trying to still teach. Still a student. My intuition is still learning to grow on me, and I'm learning to still trust my intuition. And hopefully one day I'll be even better than what I am today.
Absolutely. I love what he has to say. I love, and besides that, you're pretty handsome guy too.
Thank you
I
so
have a
much.
love for words too, but most of mine start with F, sometimes M before F, but it's okay.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like the trust and intuition. I used to think I didn't trust a lot of people. Obviously, when you go through things, right? You don't trust people. And then I learned that about like law of attraction and how people can't hurt me anymore because I don't give them that power. And I look more to trust people and be open with them so that I can let more people in. And that knowing that only good is attracted. Whenever I attract anything that I don't vibe with or doesn't really align with me and my purpose and what I want, or I just don't like something, I try to figure out what it is in me that caused that attraction or what is I was supposed to get from that interaction. And usually I find the reason. Usually I'm like, oh, it was because I was thinking about this, or maybe, it always serves a purpose, I feel like. But it really happens. I usually just meet people that I want to meet, and I try to trust that and believing that I'm attracting to my energy.
I think for me, with trusting myself or trusting my inner self comes with trusting my feelings. Like I had to learn over the course of my life that, everybody around me always called me emotional, or sensitive, when really learning in my adulthood that I'm empathic. So when I feel that my feelings about a person, place, or thing, even or situation are correct, I've also been raised, like Linda said, on survival mode. So we weren't taught to really handle and deal with the way we feel. Or if something doesn't look right to us, we just had to power through it and not really deal with the emotion behind it. So for me, trusting my inner self and listening to my inner self is like Manoj was saying, like the vibe, how do you feel around this person? How is this place making you feel? If you feel uneasy, then more than likely it's something that you shouldn't be doing, or it's something or a place that you shouldn't actually be in. And really learning and continuing to learn, again, a student of life as well. We're constantly on this evolution of evolving and growing. And so we get encountered with different situations where we have to listen to how we feel, what our bodies is telling us. And I think it became more intense when I started to physically feel certain things around me, where it's just like my body wouldn't really interact with that person. It would just shut down. So knowing that, that's a part of me having to trust that I know that I'm right about the feeling, not allowing anybody or the societal view to make you look or feel crazy, in a sense, for lack of better words, because you're the only person who sees and feels it. And nobody can actually see and feel what you see and feel. And trusting yourself and going with that, no matter what it looks like, like it to be true, and trusting that feeling and trusting that emotion.
You're not just an empath, you know that, correct?
I don't know that.
I know you I know you get messages beyond just your empathic messages. You get other messages as well. You're just not picking up on the fact that it's more than that. You and I need to talk.
Yeah, I you know what? But I felt that you were going to say that at some point during this conversation. So,
but how did I know that?
He's going to send me a message after this. He's going to tell me we need to talk. I seriously thought that. No joke.
Yeah, we don't even just need to talk about that. But there's a woman who's standing around you too. We need to talk about her.
Okay. Okay.
She sort of looks like you, except she has these dark glasses. She likes to sit like this sometimes. And every time she sits like this, she smiles at people, but she has these dark glasses and keeps taking them off and showing me that she wears these dark rim glasses. She looks like you, but her hair is darker. And she wears it like you, but she's around you all the time. But don't let me take this over.
Okay. I don't know. Is that good or bad?
Oh no,
that's all I need to know.
She's here as a spiritual guide for you.
Okay, that's cool. I'll take that.
Who wouldn't?
So Daniel, tell us about your process of being able to trust what was happening to you when you started going through.
Oh boy. It was a different a different path for me for my entire life. I've seen spirits since I was 3 years old, and but I had you were saying, having a support system. I had a support system there with me because my whole family was seeing them at the same time. It's just we lived in a place that had a battlefield next to it, and So I was seeing them throughout my entire life. It was until I was 17 that my parents and I moved, and then no one else was seeing them anymore. It was just me. Um, but when you see things, when you go through things your entire life, it's the analogy I give for that is, you remember when we were kids and our mom and dad fed us green beans, and then 30 years later, you love green beans. Why? Because you get used to it. And that's what happens in our lives. We unfortunately, how we go through our lives, we just seem to get used to things. And unfortunately, some people just seem to get used to having trauma in their lives. They don't know how to get away from it or dig themselves out of that hole. But learning to trust was a big thing for me, especially when I found out when I was finding out that I was a medium. I didn't know that I was. I just saw a lot of things, but I was seeing a lot of things a lot more when this was taking place. So I eventually got with a group of people who were all professional mediums, and I walk in and said, "Hey, I'm seeing this stuff," and they're like, "Hey, okay." They helped me to develop this ability and to learn to trust it. But I know this is going to sound crazy, people, but I do something that's called channeling, and I was able to channel with each one of those individuals in this group. And every time when I channel, I don't just, regular spirit just talk to me, and I just call them regular spirit. Your moms and dads and brothers and sisters and all that stuff. But I speak with archangels. They're, like I said, they aren't men with wings. They don't look like that. And every time I would do this channeling session with them, one of them would come through. And I knew all the names of who would come through. And one of them who came through a couple of times, Jesus, God came through twice. When this being comes through and says, "Hello, my son, you know who the heck you're talking to." So the hard part, even they would tell me, is you have to learn to trust yourself, because I was always, as everyone has that one question when they're going through any type of trauma all the time, or if they're going through any type of experience all the time throughout their lives, they always ask that one simple question: why me? Why is it always me? Why is it just me? And when you're going through those types of things in your lives, if you have a broken leg, you're always asking, why is it me? Why is it me? It almost makes you feel as though you are the only one who is going through it. But because you are so far into your own head, into your own thought process, that you think this is just about you, but it's not just about you. Many people do break their legs. We don't realize it until we go back out into the world and realize, oh, it's just in the same way where someone walks up to you and you have a broken leg and they look at you and say, "Oh, you're not going through that much pain," but they don't realize how much pain you're going through until they break their own leg. People have a hard time with these experiences, and these experiences that I was having were hard for me, because I was seeing so many things that were just unbelievable. At that time that I was going through this, I had so much going on in my house. My wife was away on vacation for 2 weeks, and for those 2 weeks, I saw everything imaginable you can think of that was in a scary movie that was going on. It was going on in my house, and I was seeing it around me so much that I did feel as though I was going crazy. I didn't know what to think was going on. But I think the hardest thing that I had to do was to let go, was to surrender to my own fears that were inside of me, to understand that I don't need to feel this way. I could feel differently if I choose, because everything we do in our life is a choice. Just in the same way that, like, if I looked at you, Linda, and I said, "Linda, if you and I were best buddies," and say, just as an analogy, that, Linda, you were an alcoholic, I'd say, "Hey, Linda, you know what? I will keep you away from drugs and alcohol. I will take you to all the meetings. I will keep you away from the craziness of this world. I will keep you away from all the bars and all that stuff." Although, who doesn't like a good strip club every now and then? But I get it. But I will take you away from all that stuff. But until you choose to stop drinking, no matter what I say or do, isn't going to make a difference. So ultimately, it comes down to ourselves. It comes down to the idea that we have to know, no matter what I want to do, and no matter where I'm going to go, it's ultimately going to be my choice. And until I choose to let go of this fear and choose to start trusting myself, where am I going? What am I doing? And that was the hardest part with me, learning to surrender to my own self, learning to surrender to, I don't need to do things the way that everyone else does them. I have to do them the way that they best suit me. And that was the hardest part for me. But I did get through it, and now I feel as though I'm better for it. And once I did get through it, I learned that I look at the world completely different now. I don't look at the world in a fearful way anymore. And I try to help other people to help them to learn that they don't need to walk around in fear their entire lives. I mean, what is fear? Fear is that feeling that everything is going to go wrong. I mean, just think of getting rid of fear in your life. Just think of all the people you might have met in your life or the places you might have gone without having any fear in your life. You look at someone and say, oh, I want to ask this man out, or I want to ask this woman out, but they might say no. Well, if they do, that just means they're just not meant to be with you and you're not meant to be with them. There's 7.5 billion people out there. You'll find another one. Let it go. But people can't seem to let it go. They want to bring that trauma. They want to bring that trauma of drama into their lives continuously because they just can't seem to let it go. And I would hope that people would soon figure that out about themselves, but sometimes it just seems to take a long time. I mean, it took me 50 years. I wish it didn't take that long. I wish I would have felt this way that I do now a long time ago. But again, like Linda was saying, this is part of our journey. This is not, this is something we have to go through. This is something we need to learn about. And sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for some of us. But when we get to that point when we learn that we can let it go, we feel so much more about ourselves. We feel so much more about everyone else around us. We're not clouded any longer. And finally lifting that cloud off of myself. Now I'm above the clouds. Now I'm up in the sky. And I'm just looking down and just thinking, if I can do this for me, maybe I can help someone else do that for them. It wasn't easy, but hey, if life was meant to be easy, what would be the point of living? If you were given everything in your life, you wouldn't appreciate the things you do have in your life. And I appreciate my life now.
Yeah, that reminds me of a parable through studying Zen. There's a parable that if the seed doesn't struggle to bloom, it doesn't have much taste. If you give it the perfect circumstances all the time, it'll grow big and it'll look beautiful, but there won't be a lot of flavor to it. Yeah. The other thing that you said,
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah, the other thing that you said too was that feeling of going crazy. I have experienced that several times throughout my development because I moved deeper and deeper into a union with that higher self, and as I've done that, I've gone through, like, I remember the very first spiritual awakening that I ever had. And my good friend, I'm sure she'd tell you, I must have asked her like at least 60 to 100 times, am I crazy? Am I losing it? Am I normal? Like, is this normal? Is this supposed to be happening? Like, so I think that that's a really normal point of view that people go through. And also because to the people who know you, when you're going through a spiritual awakening and you're starting to listen to that intuition, to the people who know you, that have known you for the long time, may think you're going crazy. And that kind of tells you, am I going crazy? Is that even deeper, that question of, am I going crazy? Am I losing my mind here? Like, I feel like that was the normal thing for people. And I've had lots of people when we start working together that they ask me, am I losing it? Is this normal? Yeah, it's normal. You
The
know,
one
when you,
word that we need to get rid of from the language of the world. Normal. I'm not normal. I'm me.
yeah, but I mean, but that's the whole thing is the whole, like, what is normal? You know, like,
Nothing is normal.
why can't everything be normal? All of
Like,
it. The
more or less,
whole,
why can't everything just be the same? But it's not meant to be the same because you were meant to go on a different path or a different journey than someone else. What happened to you was meant just for you.
Mhm,
It's your normal. It's
yeah,
you.
exactly. So why can't your uniqueness be the norm?
Because everyone has a different uniqueness,
Mhm.
which means there is no normal. People just use that word normal, that you should be something that they think you should believe or society believes you should believe you should be. No, I'm going to be me.
Mhm. And unique. But then that's just the changing the meaning of the word normal ultimately. Like,
Correct. Right. So
mhm.
why have that word? Get rid of it. Yeah. I'm just going to be me. And I'm just going to be damn good looking too. Whatever.
It reminds me of something I was watching about samadhi. I don't know if you heard of that word, but it's more about being human than doing. I think we're always trying to do more physically. Really, the answer is
Yes.
always in. But the point I was getting with normal and everything was the ego. And I really think it's just everybody's worried about what other people think instead of how you feel and connecting and aligning with your true self. And we always trying to be like other people. So I think a lot of that, the answers to this being normal or listening to your intuition and what's blocking you is your ego.
Mhm.
And that's the fear too. Your ego holds you to that fear so it doesn't disappear. And your true self is, and really the prison too, is yourself, is your mind. Your mind is how you think and being trapped inside of that and letting
Yeah.
go of those beliefs and your ego.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you leave here and you cross over into that light, you let go of all your pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, all that stuff. You let go of your ego.
So
If
I
you
want to
can
do it
let,
now.
yeah, if you can let go of it there,
I
why
don't
can't
want
we
to
do
wait
it
till I'm
here?
dead.
Right. Why can't we do it here? We should be able to do it here. But
I think we're
again,
transitioning to doing it now. I
right.
think that's where we are. And this is what this is about.
Yep, we
Sorry.
listen to society and we let society talk us into it. Well, it's they. It's always they who say you need to do this. They say you need to eat bacon today. They say you don't eat
I
bacon
don't believe
tomorrow.
in they. I think it's us. I think it's our fear. I think it's our thoughts. Because we want to be liked. We want to be like other people so we fit in. And that's the
Right.
ego again. So
You
when
can
you
fit in
say
anywhere
they,
you want to.
I feel like it's me. It's
Yeah,
me holding me back. Therefore, you are your biggest obstacle.
correct.
You are, like it's you. And why you come back, like you were saying before, like we come back, our life, we keep coming back. It's because it's you. It's your lessons that you didn't learn or something. It's
Correct.
all you. All the answers is within us. So there's no they. We give them the power if we say they. But
And
if
that's who
you
they
say
are.
you,
When we
you
give
can
them the
change it.
power, it's they who have the power over us. But we need, you know what I think? I think they need to shut the hell up. That's what I think.
Well,
Just saying.
ultimately, as humans, we all have basic needs, right? We all need connection. We all need love. We all need support. We all need acceptance. That's like a basic human need. So that is why when we are like going through the developmental stages, we're changing and blocking who we are, and we're believing more of the fear that we're not going to get it if we're unique.
Right. Right. We're not going to get it because we're told we need to be a certain way. We need to be, you can only have education if you go to college. Well, that's not true. Many people don't go to college and still have a higher education. It's just depends upon who you are and
Yeah.
and who you choose or can be.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that's
And if it was going to college, if all knowledge was to come from college, I think Buddha would not have been the enlightened one sitting
Correct.
below a tree, right? And
Yeah.
he is the enlightened one. So basically, Buddha is a great example that why each one of us should actually learn to listen to our intuitions, right? That's best way of connecting with the divine. And again, it's about the belief system of people, right? Some may not believe it, that there is a divine and there is a universal energy that controls and connects each one of us. It's okay. But again, each one of us experience that energy in different way. We may not believe in those things, but still we are connected. We are part of everything. And so once you learn to accept it, you actually feel and get better results happening to you. And even in the tough situations in life, you are calmer, right? And you know that I've been through all this, and that's why I think all this suffering had been my answer to this question that we initially I stated that I also asked why I'm going through it. Right now I have the answer that I went through all this because I needed to come to that state, that level where I now am at peace with it. I have accepted it. And now I know whatever is happening is for the betterment of me and
Yes.
people around me, and the purpose for which I was actually born. It is part of that entire journey. So it helps me fulfill that purpose, right? So this is what actually I think it's all about. And now I have even been able to, I won't say that I am completely in control, I'm able to control my emotions, but I'm now mindful of what is happening to me in terms of my emotions also. I won't say I don't get angry, but yes, when I'm in the angry mode, inside my head, there is a talk. Man, you are getting angry and the level is going higher. You should come down. So that process, when I'm even angry and I'm shouting, the process goes on within the head and I come down. That process keeps me down. It helps me get grounded faster. So I'm not wasting my energy, because then my that subconscious mind is working and it's saying that you are wasting your energy by being in that anger state. Rather, channelize this energy into something productive or creative. So that's where being creative also has helped me. I'm able to write a poetry, or I'm able to write a quote or something that way, or even I do pencil sketch or something. So I use that energy, channelize it to bring forward something positive. So I'm using that energy in constructive way, not in a destructive way. So that's what I'm trying to learn through my way, and that's doing inner work, right? When you learn to trust your emotions also, because all this human body is given that emotion. Soul may not feel an emotion, right? We and this but this body feels the emotions. It feels love, it feels pain, it feels grief, it feels everything. So the power that it has, that it should be able to control that emotions, right? So that's what the inner work has helped me be mindful of this thing, that I have emotion, I respect all my emotions now, even my fear, and I try to channelize them into something constructive that could be beneficial. And that's what I share with people around me.
Boom
It's funny 'cause-
shakalaka. Fist bump, Manchi, because that was awesome. Absolutely. All is one is all.
Yes.
It's so funny because I was like writing little bits that were popping up as all of you guys were talking, and I was like, oh, what Manoj is saying is like, this is what it's like.
Notes.
Yeah, like sometimes I need those little sparkles on paper, but I was like, trusting, like for me, because I'd initially read it about like when you're small and there's family members that you felt a vibration that was off, and then you have to go and hug them to make everyone else feel better, and you've had to lose, that's where you, like how you lose those parts of trusting yourself. And then your standards and your boundaries go all out the window. And there's a lot of people relearning about what standards are, but also that you can shift in those, like whether they're being made out of love or out of fear. For me, I like to say standards because boundaries feels like cutting off. And if something's coming into my experience, there's an opportunity because I've created that, instead of like, no, you're going into that coping strategy of like, you've done something wrong, I can't deal with you. That would be, for me, that's a coping strategy. But the trust thing as well is trusting all of those parts of you and surrendering to those parts as they're rising, so they're moving, because we've been like collectively, unless your parents were really like conscious, have been cutting off emotions like, you fall over when you're small and get up, you're fine. And maybe you wanted to let out some like crying so that you're in this natural state of release, and then you distrust your emotions and you're scared of actually letting go as an adult because you don't see the natural evolution of that. And it's trusting those shadow parts of yourself are rising to go, and trusting and leaning into that, because I explained it a couple of days ago. It's like you're wearing the Michelin Man layers of all of these hand-me-down clothes of conditions, of thoughts, of ideas, and you realize this layer doesn't fit anymore, and you're like, oh, what am I wearing here? And it's trusting that it's okay to let that go. Like, it's okay to not be who you thought you were, and to, like, you are in control when you are surrendering and letting go of those spaces, and trusting that you're, like, for me, that's really, trust is honoring myself. And a lot of it is, and because not, the other thing is, because we're all these moving parts and all these moving places, like having people that can hold space for you can seem very rare, without having an opinion, or you should do this, or you need to do, like, trying to fix something because they feel uncomfortable. And sometimes that's just you with you and journaling. So going through these big unravelings and these releasings, it can feel like and going, what the heck am I seeing? What's going on? It feels like really gnarly. And that trusting that it feels quite lonely at times, but also your spirit team and support is always there, even though you don't see it. And when you're in those phases of shedding big layers and releasing, or deep suffering, or whatever the heck it is, it can feel really freaking lonely. But that deep excavation of self, and sometimes it's just like my deepest, I really leant into grief. I was like, I'm not going back to work earlier. Like, I really leant into it, but it was my intuition in those moments that really, I remember I came back to New Zealand. I was watching daytime, kind of like this Jerry Springer style TV, because that's what was on. And I was like, why the heck are these people going nuts over a relationship falling apart? I've lost a love of my life. I'm doing a jigsaw. And a part of me was like, this was coming from me, from nobody else. And so that's why I listen. A part of me is like, if you keep going on like this, you're gonna actually kill yourself. Or get up and go for a run. Am I a runner? No. So one day it was like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm gonna put on some shoes and go for a run. And I trusted. It's that taking that leap of faith, because we've been surrounded by people that didn't role model that. So we're getting extra brownie bonus points for doing this in the first place. Like, there's one time, like, my local cafe, I go there when I feel compelled to go there. And sometimes I'm going there later on in the day, and I don't know, like, why am I drinking the coffee at this time? I can have a tea, but it's the people that I meet in those spaces. But one time I was driving in, and I was like, oh, something feels a bit off about that. And I drove around the block to get the message that there was a person in there that was filled with entities, and just to really suit up in protection for myself. And I came in, and I'd never seen that person before, and they were not themselves. And I was like, that's an interesting experience. And like, thank you, me, for listening to me. And the more that I lean into, like, the release of those parts of myself that are rising to leave, and doing that in a sacred way, the more that I'm honoring myself, the more that I'm showing up in my authenticity, the more that I'm sharing, like I'm just being pushed to come out, like more and more online. And it's like, it can be me showing up in really crazy, funny, humaning stories that of my life before. Like I've been doing that on podcasts of speaking about spirituality, but talking about things like Tinder and stuff like that and joking. And, like for me, that is what fuels my fire. That is what lights me up. And it's that vibration beyond the words. But the more I excavate and release, and as those layers are coming up to go, instead of squashing them down, and I'm in the flow of that, the more I'm okay with me, the more it's showing whether people are triggered or they're loving it or what the heck it is. That's not my responsibility. That's an opportunity for them. But the more that they can honor and be themselves as well. And it's like, that's the beautiful dance for me, is just being in it's learning to be in the flow of yourself and honoring yourself in that way. And the more you release, the more you realize who the heck you are and why the heck you're here. And that just changes and shifts and grows and expands. The more like spiritual gifts and tools that come through and the more places you connect with, and the more like things you see, and the more like and the more you're speaking from your heart and your truth, as opposed to your wounding and your reaction. That is, when people are like, I'm speaking my truth, and there's this big emotional charge and like, I need to get this out, and it's coming from a very wounded space, and that may be beautiful for in their experience. But the more that you're clearing that out, the more you're honing in with this beautiful, it's a whole vibe, and it's beyond the words. It's the vibration and the whole experience that's felt, that shifts people, just by being you. And it's like a little candle, and then other little candles come in, and we're all lit up, and all that. And our perception of however the heck we see the world is a reflection of where we're at in awareness, and that's all okay. It is so all okay. Yeah.
I love what you were saying, and we're just going to tie it up here soon. But I love what you were saying, because, we can tap into the internet and we can get any information that we need at the tips of our fingers, yet we have this intuitive connection, or this intuitive line that we can tap into as well, and really allow ourselves to get information from a different source, a more collective, galactic type of information that is available to us if we allow, right? If we, like you were saying, peel off those layers and just allow ourselves to trust more and more the deeper parts of that, because it's inside of us. We find it inside. You can't find it outside. It's inside. Mm-hmm. And the more that we can take those layers off and connect to that, the more that we're living out those missions and learning those lessons, like Daniel was saying, and moving through, and hopefully not have to come back again.
Right. You don't want to come back again, because you don't want to end up coming back again and having going on Jerry Springer finding out who your baby daddy is. So don't worry about that stuff.
Oh my God, what a lovely conversation. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you. It's such an honor to, be able to take these conversations and make them public, and allow these words and these connections to make others feel like they're not crazy. We're all here, and we're all experiencing it, and we're all doing it. And we're, hopefully just lighting up those lights, those little candles in other people.
I was just happy to come online so people could see my green and black shirt.
You're what?
My green and black shirt.
Funny.
Sorry.
Yes, good. So we'll be now putting it for auction, right?
Yes. If you want me to, I'll take my shirt off right now. No, you don't want me to.
That's
No, you
enough.
don't want
That's
to
good
do that.
enough. That's
No,
good
you don't.
enough.
You don't want to see
This
that.
is not that type of
My
show.
wife doesn't want to see that, so it's okay.
That's good. That's good enough.
That's cute. Okay, so thank you, everybody. If you like what you're watching, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to have so many more of these beautiful and wonderful conversations coming forward in the future. And yeah, just looking forward to connecting with every single one of you more and more as these talks keep going. So yeah, everybody have a great day.
Boom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
See
It
ya.
was nice
Thanks for
meeting
having
you
us
all.
on. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
And good night from my side.
Good night.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. You guys are going to have a good morning. I'm going to have a good sleep. It's cold now.
Awesome.
Indeed. It's the afternoon for me now, so it's time for lunch.
Yes. Good. I'll have my nap.